WikiLeaks introduces this AI-rendered voice generated from an essay written by Professor Robert Gordon, former personal secretary to, and the first Western person designated as a Brahmachari, and deerskin carrier, by Maharishi. These skin boys, as they were called in the TM movement, were close confidants of Maharishi, who saw the inner workings of Maharishi's inner circle. Robert has a PhD from Princeton University. He has held posts at the Universities of California, New Mexico, and Oregon, with a specialty in American religious history. Part 7, Falling Out with the Guru, the Beatles' Disillusionment and Departure from Maharishi's Ashram. When George awoke Patty in the morning, she recounted to him the dream and said, "Come on, we're leaving." Patty's sister Jenny, part of the celebrity entourage, substantiated her sister's story. Concerning the Mir-Rosalind allegations, Jenny relates, when Patty told George she'd had a dream depicting Maharishi in the same light, it confirmed their decision. Early on the morning of April 10th, after a quick breakfast, John and George went to Maharishi's house to confront him. John told him coldly, "We're leaving." Startled, the guru asked, "Why? What's wrong?" John shot back, "Well, if you're so cosmic you'll know why." When Maharishi replied that he didn't know, that they would have to tell him, John doubled down, "Well, you're supposed to be the mystic, you should know." Maharishi, unused to such insolence, glowered at John with a hateful stare. As John recounts, he gave me a look like, "I'll kill you, you bastard," that I knew then. I had called his bluff. John returned to his room in a volcanic fury of disillusionment. He tore the poster of Maharishi from his wall, ripped it in half, threw it face down on the concrete floor, and walked over it as he packed for the impending departure. The lava was now gushing full flow and would soon carry the entire celebrity crew out of the ashram. Rosalind, for all of them, summarized the reason why. "I left the ashram the day after I was totally disillusioned with my guru." With their packing complete, the sadly once faithful group began to load their taxis. Surprised by the sight, Nancy Jackson approached Patty and asked why they were leaving. Jackson expressed her dismay at their departure, since just the day before all had seemed fine. Jackson said to Patty, "You had definitely decided to go to Kashmir with the group and finish the course. Will you still meet us there?" A furious John turned to Jackson and witheringly replied, "We're not going to join Maharishi there or anywhere, we've had it. If you want to know why, ask your fucking precious guru." With the taxis now loaded, it was time to depart. John, George, their wives Cynthia and Patty, Patty's sister Jenny, Rosalind, Magic Alex, and Tom Simcox, a well-known film and TV actor and fixture in the celebrity crew, filed out of the ashram. Maharishi, seated forlornly near their exit route, cried out, "Why are you leaving? Don't go. Wait. Please talk to me." The departees walked on in glum silence and sped off in their taxis. When John returned to London, he told Paul the details of what had happened to make him and George leave. When the story of the attempted seductions had been recounted, John summed things up for Paul: "He's just a bloody old leck just like everybody else. What the fuck? We can't go following that." And that was the end of the Beatles' public support of Maharishi. Part 8, The Beatles' Controversial Departure, Unraveling the Maharishi Debacle and Unanswered Questions. When John returned to London, he told Paul the details of what had happened to make him and George leave. When the story of the attempted seductions had been recounted, John summed things up for Paul: "He's just a bloody old leck just like everybody else. What the fuck? We can't go following that." And that was the end of the Beatles' public support of Maharishi. Now the Beatles were gone, but the question has long persisted: did they make the wrong decision? Was the conclusion of the heated debate the previous night correct, that their master was in fact a sexual predator and that they should all leave? Or was something else more cosmic in play, something they were too ignorant to understand? As Maharishi said when first confronted with the Mir-Rosalind allegations, the tip is only 10% of the iceberg. The Beatles' anguished debate on this topic and what to do about it would have been fruitfully informed, and their decision's correctness ratified, if they had dismissed the mere Rosalind allegations and gone on to Kashmir and stayed until the end of the course. There they could have included in their debate the input of a young Swedish girl on the course named Gunilla, acclaimed by all as a great beauty. She was then the girlfriend of Richard Blakely, and later his wife. In his book The Secret of the Mantras, Blakely, hereinafter Rickard, as Gunilla fondly called him, has left us a fascinating account of his time on the course with the Beatles. Though not quite a member of the celebrity crew, he was friendly with all of them, and he could have told them the following story. The early morning of the celeb crew's fateful departure, Rickard was just getting his breakfast when he saw George running down the path, breathless and obviously upset. When George reached the dining room, he shook hands with the few that were there and told them that he and John and the rest of their entourage were leaving, that something had happened he hadn't time to explain as the taxis were waiting. Rickard was especially sad and surprised to learn that the departees included Rosalind, a warm friend of his since the outset of the initiator training course. He was puzzled that she was going, especially since he knew that Rosalind had spent all her savings to come to India in order to become a better teacher when she returned to New York. He'd talked with her not long before and she'd seemed perfectly happy with the course and her long meditations, and was excited about the prospect of becoming a teacher of TM. And now she was abruptly leaving, her dream unfulfilled? He, along with the other remaining course participants, were left in the dark as to why the celeb crew had left. They would all soon find out. Not long after, very early one morning, Rickard's girlfriend Gunilla sat up in bed and said that she had to go and see Maharishi and give him a flower. Rickard went back to sleep, and when he awakened Gunilla was still gone. When she finally returned, she reported that she had spent over an hour alone with Maharishi. "It was so beautiful," she said. "I came away flying." Her report left him curiously out of sorts and depressed. Although he didn't know it yet, he had good reason to be down, as he found out when the course participants moved from the ashram to Kashmir for their final stage of instruction. Part 9, Whispers of Betrayal, Unveiling Secrets at the Maharishi's Ashram. When she finally returned, she reported that she had spent over an hour alone with Maharishi. "It was so beautiful," she said. "I came away flying." Her report left him curiously out of sorts and depressed. Although he didn't know it yet, he had good reason to be down, as he found out when the course participants moved from the ashram to Kashmir for their final stage of instruction. Once in Kashmir, ensconced in houseboats on Dal Lake near Srinagar, the course participants faced their final hurdle, mastering the puja, which is recited before each new meditator receives their mantra from their initiator. After 2 weeks of diligent practice, the final moment of truth arrives when all the participants have to perform the puja for Maharishi, and if successful, would receive the secret of the mantras that they would be giving to new converts. Just before the puja tests began, Rickard was having breakfast with some of his friends when Gunnar, a course participant from Norway, joined them. He looked upset and out of sorts. After Gunnar placed his breakfast order, he turned to the others and asked if they had heard the rumor. When they asked, "What rumor?" Gunnar told them he'd just been in touch with friends in Norway who'd heard that the Beatles left the ashram because they found out that Maharishi had been fooling around with one of the girls on the course. His Norwegian friends had read the story in an article somewhere that also contained an interview John Lennon gave shortly after he arrived back in London. According to the article, Gunnar said, "A man named Alex had hidden in the bushes outside Maharishi's bedroom window and seen what happened with the blonde American girl. They were caught with red hands," he said in his slightly stilted English. "And then this Alex," Gunnar continued, "he went and told the Beatles and John got very angry and they ordered taxis and left right away the next morning." Those at the breakfast table pondered the truth of this shocking story for a time, and then went their separate ways. When they left the dining room, Rickard continued the discussion with his friend Larry. When he asked Larry if he thought the story was true, Larry said he was sure it was true, at least as sure as he could be. Larry said he had talked with Tom Simcox just before Tom left the ashram with the celebrity crew, and that Tom had told him exactly the same story. Larry said that Tom was really pissed. Rickard replied, "Poor Rosalind." Larry shot back, "Yeah," and with a short laugh continued, "But you gotta admit that she got what she came for." When Rickard asked what Larry meant, Larry responded, "Well, she wanted to feel Maharishi's vibrations from up close, remember? How much closer could she get?" Larry then slapped him on the shoulder and laughed out loud. Rickard concluded the story must be true because it made sense. That was why the Beatles left, on the spur of the moment like that. Now alarmed that his good friend Rosalind had been the victim of Maharishi's seduction attempt, Rickard's mind wandered back to that early morning that Gunilla had spent an hour alone sequestered with the master, leaving him strangely out of sorts and depressed. Had she been telling him the truth about what happened that morning? He decided to press the issue. He asked her again what happened that morning, and she suddenly became defensive, insisting that she had already told him what had happened. And with a strange rasp in her voice he had never heard before, Gunilla said, "Why is this so important all of a sudden, Rickard? What's the matter with you anyway?" With that, she pushed him away, rushed to the bathroom and slammed the door.